Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Leah.
And it's our travel unit for the month of February. And we're going to Italy. There are lots of places to go to in Italy. You can go to Rome or Milan or places like that. But today we're actually going to go to Florence. And while we're there, we're going to check out something called the Duomo. And if you're Catholic, you probably know a lot about Italy because that's where Vatican City is, basically. That's where the Pope is. And if you go to Florence, which is probably a considerable distance away from Rome, but still it's a cool place to check out. And if you're in Florence, you can also check out this cathedral, and it's called the Duomo. And yes, it's quite impressive, at least from the pictures I've seen.
It does look pretty amazing with the dome that they created for it as well. And I was just trying to remember if I was right or not. And yes, I am. Leonardo da Vinci is actually from the Florence area. So he is Leonardo da Vinci de Firenze, or that's the Italian word for Florence.
So was this place built before he was born? So did he actually see it with his very own two eyes?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so if you go check this out, you will know that Leonardo da Vinci once laid his eyes on this structure as well. So you will, in a sense, be a time traveler, and it will be a wonderful experience for you. So let's check this out, the Duomo of Florence. It's a don't miss. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson now one time. If you get the chance to travel to Florence, you'll have your pick of beautiful sights and historical monuments. For my money, though, you can't do better than the Duomo, or as it's formally known, the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Flower. I first heard about it in a high school history class, and once I saw a photo, I was captivated. Its exterior, decorated with colorful marble patterns, is a feast for the eyes, and the statues inside demonstrate spectacular artistry. Even before you are near enough to appreciate the details, the cathedral's massive red dome is a marvel to behold. Construction on the cathedral began in 1296 and lasted for more than 150 years. The original vision for the church belonged to the architect Arnolfo di Cambio. He loved the Gothic style and made it the predominant mode in his original design. After he died, those who replaced him on the project brought in other elements. Filippo Brunelleschi, one of these men, was responsible for constructing the iconic dome, which was hailed as a triumph when it was finally completed in 1436. Its design, by Neri di Fioravante, was novel and elegant, but its construction required creative alternatives to the methods of Brunelleschi's day. For example, he eliminated the need for support scaffolding by building the dome in such a way that it could support itself during the construction process. Today, we have formulas for distributing stress while building, but this wasn't the case in the early 1400s. Brunelleschi had to rely on his large-scale models and his intuitions as a builder. The cathedral's architecture and decoration make it well worth a visit. I've been twice, and I know with certainty that I could happily go back again and again to admire the cathedral and continue to learn about its history and art. I can't recommend it highly enough.
All right, everybody. So we're back now. We're going to look at our story in our travel section. And it is told as almost like a travel blog, as you can see. And what happens a lot of time with a travel blog is you find out that there's something that you don't want to miss. It's a don't miss. And for us, it's the Duomo of Florence. That is a don't miss. So the Cathedral of Florence is a place you absolutely want to see if you make your way over to Italy, if you make your way over to Florence. So if you get the chance to travel to Florence, I love the way this starts out. If you get the chance to travel to Florence, you'll have your pick of beautiful sights and historical monuments. You almost have to build up that excitement because that's the way this is written. It's written with a certain kind of excitement. We're going to travel to Italy. We're going to go to Florence, and I'll have my pick of beautiful sights and historical monuments. I'll be able to find all these amazing things to look at, beautiful sights, beautiful buildings, beautiful cathedrals, beautiful museums and things like that, and historical monuments as well.
Indeed, you'll have your pick, you'll have your choice. There will be lots of things to see and do there. And for my money, though, you can't do better than the Duomo, or as it's formally known, the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Flower. So, of course, this article is being written in the first person, so our writer is a traveler, and he has traveled there before, so for his money, or for my money, if I were to bet on this, or in my opinion, basically, you can't do better than the Duomo. That's your best choice. If you go to Florence and you only can see one thing, then this is what you should go see. And that's what it's called now, but formally, or before, it was known as the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Flower. Now, of course, a cathedral is a big Catholic church.
That's right. And from what I understand, it is a place where there is the seat of the bishop. So it's probably one of the bigger churches in an area. As it's formally known expression, there's a really good one for Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince. Later in his life, Prince started being known by a symbol, and he no longer called himself Prince. So when people would talk about him, they'd say, the artist formerly known as Prince. Once upon a time, he was known by Prince, that name. I first heard about it, so the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Flower, or the Duomo of Florence. I first heard about it in a high school history class, and once I saw a photo, I was captivated. If you're captivated by something, you're captured by its beauty. You're fascinated with it.
Now, its exterior, decorated with colorful marble patterns, is a feast for the eyes, and the statues inside demonstrate spectacular artistry. So first of all, of course, when you see this building, you're going to see its exterior, the outside of the building, and it's decorated with colorful marble patterns. Of course, as you know, here in Taiwan, we produce, or at least the people of Taiwan produce some really great marble from the East Coast there, but we all know that Italian marble is slightly better than the marble produced in Taroko there. So if you see Italian marble, you'll be very impressed with it. Of course, lots of famous statues were made from marble from Italy there. So you'll see all these wonderful marble patterns in the exterior, on the facade, I suppose. And that is a feast for the eyes. If something's a feast for the eyes, it's just really spectacular to look at.
That's right. And a lot of times with different churches or cathedrals, they will be very beautifully decorated with things to attract the eye. A lot of times historically with churches, the money from the community would give money, they would donate money, but they would also technically have to pay a church tax as well in many different cultures. Maybe 10% of your annual income would need to go to the church, and that would be to show, your dedication to the church, and all that money could be used to build these buildings. And I remember historically that the higher your building was, the higher your big steeple in your church was, the closer you were to God. So the more money that's put in, you're trying to make it bigger and better. And one of the ways you show that a cathedral is really big and beautiful is by decorating the exterior, the outside. But you also have your inside. So the statues inside are also very important, and these statues demonstrate spectacular artistry. So they demonstrate here just means show. Spectacular means brilliant, amazing, incredible artistry. So technique, artistic technique. These statues are not just like, hey dude, I can put my what is it called? My chisel to the stone and go bang, bang, bang. Look, it's beautiful. No, it required artistry. You needed it to really be very delicately done, and the stone statues are gorgeous when they're finished.
If you're into that sort of thing, you can probably be very impressed by those statues inside in the interior, and they demonstrate or show us spectacular artistry. Artistry, of course, is the skill that artists have, and it is spectacular. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. It's really cool to look at, and even before you are near enough to appreciate the details, the cathedral's massive red dome is a marvel to behold. So you can probably see this from far away away even before you are near enough to appreciate the details. You can't see the details of the exterior yet, but still you can see that really big, that really massive red dome. That is a marvel to behold. A marvel is just something really fantastic, really great to look at. There are probably a limited number of marvels in the world. So, of course, the red dome is a marvel to behold. And if you behold something, you look at it and you see it and you go, oh, wow.
Right, and you can imagine that this dome would be a marvel to behold because it was one of the biggest domes around. It was actually only smaller. I'm not sure if it's still the case, but at the time, it was only smaller to the Pantheon, which is that huge dome that's sitting in the middle of Rome. And if you go inside the Pantheon dome, you go, wow, this is amazing. There's a hole at the top. You wonder how this big dome can kind of be held together. Domes themselves are pretty amazing creatures because they require quite a lot of techniques that we'll go into in just a little while after we listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是2月份 Unit 12 The Duomo of Florence is a Don't Miss. 这是一份篇章结构的练习题。文章介绍意大利 Florence 这座美丽城市的一个著名地标 Cathedral of Saint Mary of the Flower。好，我们先一起解题吧。在开始解题前，老师想跟大家强调，答题前先看一下4个选项，心中要留下一个粗略的印象，可以用哪些句子让文章变得更完整。此外，篇章结构最重要的就是回填的句子要和前后文连贯，在文意概念上要能承先启后。请大家谨记8字真言，哪8个字呢？前后连贯，文意通顺。要记住，答题的时候一定要符合这个原则。任何的难题，相信都难不了各位的。好，我们现在先一起解第一题。第一题前面提到，我在高中历史课梯子听到这个城市的名字，一看到照片就着迷了。而后一句是，甚至在你还无法靠够近以充分品味细节之前，这座大教堂巨大的红色圆顶已是一项令人叹为观止的奇迹。前一句先引导读者进入大教堂迷人外观这个主题，而后一句则提到了教堂的红色圆顶，所以中间的句子势必也与教堂外观有关。所以第一题选 B, its exterior, decorated with colorful marble patterns, is a feast for the eyes, and the statues inside demonstrate spectacular artistry. 它的外观以五颜六色的大理石图案装饰，是一种视觉的飨宴，而内部的雕像则展现了壮观的艺术性。
We're going to take a short break now, but please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, let's continue talking about the Duomo of Florence. Of course, it's a don't miss for any trip to Italy, especially if you go to Florence. You're definitely going to need to check out this building. And we did give you some details about this. Of course, this is written from the first-person perspective of one of our writers here. He saw a picture of this structure when he was in a high school history class, and he was hooked. He was captivated, so he had to definitely check it out as soon as possible. Now, construction on the cathedral began in the year 1296 and lasted for more than 150 years. So that's quite some time ago. In the year 1296, and it took them 150 years to complete the construction.
That's right, and that's not an uncommon thing. A lot of times, the cathedrals will take hundreds and hundreds of years to get all of the details finished, and then it's time to start renovating the cathedral again. The original vision for the church belonged to the architect Arnolfo di Cambio. So the architect is the one who goes there and draws down all the designs for how he wants it to look from the top and also from the sides. They're going to make these sketches, these these architectural drafts that then can be used to create the cathedral as it's built. You'll say, yes, this will work perfectly. Or if you have a bad architect, no, this is going to make the whole building fall over. That's not very safe. We need a good architectural design before we're going to make something that's safe. And he loved the Gothic style. I just want to mention here other examples of Gothic style would be Chartres or Notre Dame. The things that make something Gothic, it's a style of building, is that it's a little bit of a heavier design, especially opposed to Rococo, if you've heard of that. But it's not as fancy as Rococo. You have pointed arches. You have these ribbed vaults, so it looks like an X over your head when you're going through the cathedral. And they have these cool flying buttresses for support, and that's outside. If you look at Notre Dame before it burned down, you have these things that are coming off the back of it, and it looks like spider legs, actually, and that's flying buttresses. And you have stained glass and rose window. Those are all things that are pretty common with a Gothic design. Rose windows being those big, round, stained glass windows. And that's something you can see in Chartres in France if you would ever get the chance.
Right. So, of course, this was built in 1296. So that was the architectural style that was popular at that time, the Gothic style. And, of course, that's what the architect chose to design his building with, the Gothic style, and he made it the predominant mode in his original design. So here it's predominant. It's the main style in the building, probably not the only style that the architect used in this building, but it's the main one, the one that is predominant, the one that you notice the most.
That's right. And again, you're talking about 150 years. So the Gothic period of architectural design might have gone away and another style might have come up and your original architect has passed away. So other people come along. And after Di Cambio died, those who replaced him on the project brought in their other elements. So you have Filippo Brunelleschi, and he is one of the men who was responsible for constructing the iconic dome, which was hailed as a triumph when it was finally completed in 1436. Iconic here means it's the thing that you recognize. Like, for example, maybe you're driving down the streets of Florence and you see this dome, and that is the thing you connect. That's the icon that you connect when you think of Florence, is this dome in this cathedral. It's the main thing that connects you to that area.
Right. Iconic just means it has some sort of symbol for the place, like the Colosseum is an iconic structure for the city of Rome. So, of course, this dome is the defining feature of this work of architecture and probably of the city of Florence itself. And it was hailed as a triumph when it was finally completed in 1436. So here we've got hail, which means it was recognized and celebrated as a triumph, as a great achievement. And they did that in the year 1436 when it was completed. They probably had a big party and lots of music and dancing and stuff like that. Now, it's designed by Neri di Fioravante, was novel and elegant, but its construction required creative alternatives to the methods of Brunelleschi's day. So we're describing the design of this dome and of the structure as being novel, which means it's unique, it's never been done before, and it's elegant, okay, which means it's refined, it's cultured, it's not tacky, and it's not, detailed in unnecessary ways.
Right, but the creating of it was also something that was quite novel. Its construction required creative alternatives to the methods of Brunelleschi's days. So they couldn't use the regular methods that everybody had used up to this point to create domes, which are difficult to create if you think about it. Try and imagine how you would put a dome together and you'll realize how difficult it is. So they needed creative alternatives. Alternatives are other options. So what might be some other options? We're going to find out as we move through this paragraph. So they needed to use these other options to create a way to make this dome, and they were different than when Brunelleschi was alive, different than the methods of Brunelleschi's day. Here it just means during the period when Brunelleschi was alive.
Indeed. So, of course, they eliminated the need for support scaffolding, which would be like a framework. They eliminated the need for that because the dome could support itself during the construction process. Okay, so that's what they did here while they were building the dome. The dome could support itself, so it did not need this support scaffolding. Of course, that was a new construction method for the time. I guess before that, they did use a scaffolding or a framework. And, of course, in this particular way, the dome supported itself during the construction process. And today, we have formulas for distributing stress while building, but this wasn't the case in the early 1400s. So nowadays, of course, we have formulas and technologies and stuff like that for distributing the weight, for moving the stress around so that it's even, so that one part doesn't collapse during construction. We can do that easily nowadays, but they could not do that back in the early 1400s.
That's right. And if you think about it, you're building a wall in a curve, and you're joining it together with other walls in curves, or you're building a round, circular, curved wall that's supposed to come all the way up to a point. So there's going to be weight that is, not going to like gravity. It's going to be like, I'm going to fall. This dome does not want to stay together. So scaffolding would have kept everything in place until you could put those top blocks in and hold everything together, which would have been the secure way of the old days. But it looks like at this point, with their creative alternatives, they figured out ways to distribute the weight or to move the weight differently so that, the wall wasn't in a threat, didn't have the threat of falling down, which is really, really fascinating. Brunelleschi had to rely on his large-scale models and his intuitions as a builder. Your intuitions are your base understandings, your natural instincts that you have. So he had these natural instincts as a builder that told him, yeah, it's going to be okay. It's not going to all fall down. This dome that is the second biggest dome in all of Italy and maybe most of the world, it's not going to fall down. I have an intuition that says everything's okay. Yeah.
And it's still standing now, so he must have known what he was doing. And he also used large-scale models, which he tried out first. And if they failed, he'd try to figure out another way to make them. And eventually, he was successful. Now, the cathedral's architecture and decoration make it well worth a visit. So indeed, if you like architecture and you like to learn about how buildings and domes are constructed, well, check it out. And of course, it's got some great decorations with the paintings and the statues and stuff like that. And our writer here says that he's been there twice and he knows with certainty that he could happily go back again and again to admire the cathedral and continue to learn about its history and art. So yes, I know with certainty, I'm very certain 100% that I would love to go back there many, many times and keep looking at it and learn more and more. You can probably never stop learning about that structure.
Right. So with certainty here means with surety, with conviction, with absolute awareness that you are right. You might also say, I can say with certainty, or I feel with certainty that something, something, something. So those are two other ways you can express with certainty. So here the certainty was, that he loved this architectural creation and he wants to see it again and again. He'd happily go back there. And at the end pinnacle of his travel blog or his travel report, he says, I can't recommend it highly enough. This is the sentence that you hear at the end of a story about really good restaurants in some foreign place that you've never been to, or some incredible museum, or some life-changing place that you have to go and visit. So that tells me that I want to get over and check out the Duomo of Florence.
Me too, of course, if I have the money and the time. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
第二段一开始，文章说明教堂1296年开始兴建，历时150多年才完工。建筑构想出自 Arnolfo di Gambio 这位建筑师，他崇尚哥德式风格，也在原始设计中也以此为主要风格。接着，请看第二题后面的句子。Filippo Brunelleschi, one of these men, was responsible for constructing the iconic dome. 这些人其中一位负责建造最具代表的圆顶。到此为止， 我们可以看到文意从一位建筑师过渡到一群人，中间需要文意的串联。所以第二题选择 D。After he died, those who replaced him on the project brought in all the elements. 意思是说，在他过世以后，在这项计划里面接替他位置的一群人融入了其他元素。接下来请看第三题，请看前一句 Its design was novel and elegant. 这边这句话的意思是说，圆顶的设计新颖而高雅，但建造圆顶需要当时创新非常新创的工法。而后一句 Today we have formulas 这个句子表示我们目前有公式可以依循，在建造圆顶时分散压力。不过在西元1400年代初期，情况并非如此，前后句都是在谈圆顶的建造，所以第三题也必须找一个跟圆顶建造相关的句子。所以我们答案选择 A。For example, he eliminated the need for support scaffoldings by building the dome in such a way that it could support itself during the construction process. 中文意思是，例如他建造圆顶的方式根本不需要支撑性鹰架，建造过程中建物本身可以提供支撑力。最后第四题，前一句提到我已经造访过教堂2次了，我很明白的知道我很乐于一再就地重游，欣赏教堂，深入历史艺术当中。根据前一句，我们可以推测作者根据自身经验强力推荐这个景点，以此作为本文的结论。而选项 C 以 I 来当作主词，延续了空格前面作者自己本身的经验，大力的向读者推荐这个景点 It。 文意呢连贯通顺，所以第四题选 C。 以上就是老师对这一篇篇章结构所做的解题中文讲解，谢谢大家。
All right, everybody. For English Digest, that's the end of our article for today. I'm Leah.
And I'm Tom.
Goodbye.
Bye.